Hello, this is episode 4 of the Mindful Melbourne Makeup podcast. I'm Kath and I'm coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. This is my YouTube channel where I talk about all the things I'm making, mostly knitting, but some crochet. And welcome back to everyone that's watched my previous episodes, and welcome to anyone that's new. You're very welcome here, and I encourage comments and interaction because I really enjoy seeing all the comments and replying to everyone. So thank you for any comments that you've left on previous episodes. I really enjoyed that. Where you can find me, so I'm on Instagram as Mindful Melbourne Maker, and I'm on Ravelry as kathsmartin, and I have a couple of knitting patterns available on Ravelry as well under kathsmartin designs. So the first note since the last episode is that my Canberra socks pattern was released, which is very exciting. So that's my first paid for pattern that I've released, and it's been a really interesting learning experience and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you to everyone that's already bought the pattern and supported me. So just a reminder, the Canberra socks are a DK weight sock pattern, and they're basically the choose your own adventure DK weight sock pattern that has all the options that you'll ever need. So there's different cuff options, there's different heel options, there's different options for the yarn that you hold. So you can hold DK weight sock yarn, you can hold 2 strands of fingering weight, which is what this pair is, or you can hold a strand of fingering weight and a strand of silk mohair, which is what this pair is. So 3 options of yarn weights, and then the heels, there's actually 3 heel flap options. There's 2 heel turn options, the Dutch heel turn and the French heel turn. And there's also an afterthought heel in case that's your preference. And they're just a lot of fun. It's not a very expensive pattern, but it has absolutely everything you'll ever need to make DK weight socks, which if you've ever wanted to learn to knit socks, or you just can't be bothered with fingering weight socks, which do take a long time, DK weight socks are so much fun. So I really encourage, if you haven't had a look at the pattern, please have a look on Ravelry. The link's down below. Give the pattern some love, even if you don't buy it. Maybe give it a little heart, pop it in your queue. And yeah, I'd really appreciate any support for that pattern. Now, I did have a discount for the first week that it was available on Ravelry. That did finish up, but I wanted to give the YouTube viewers the opportunity to also get a discount on that pattern since you've been here for that journey. So if you pop in the coupon code warm toes, all caps without a space in between, warm toes, that will give you 10% off the pattern if you head over. So that's for the next week. So head over, pop in the coupon code, grab the pattern, and have a lot of fun knitting up DK weight socks. So the other thing you can do is there's lots of sock knit-alongs going on at the moment. So these are a really great way to participate in those knit-alongs because they're super quick. You can make a bunch of pairs and submit them in the knit-alongs. One of the ones going on at the moment is the Summer Sock Camp run by the Crazy Sock Lady. So yeah, a great pattern to get involved in that as well. So yeah, so that's the Canberra socks. And while you're there also, I do have the free pattern for the Melbourne socks, so you can download that, and that's for the fingering weight with, you know, similar options, not quite as many because it is a free pattern, but yeah, so that's there if you also want that. So what I'm wearing today, this is one of my absolute favorite jumpers. This is the Lento by Jono Helen, and it's just a really, really lightweight, lovely raglan sort of oversized jumper. It's the really cool thing about this sweater is that the gauge is really large. So I knit this up in fingering weight held with silk mohair, but you actually knit it up on really big needles. So I think it was 6mm needles, and so it does give you this quite open airy fabric. It's not see-through, you can see it's not see-through, but it's really light, which is lovely in the sort of autumn and spring in Melbourne, because it's not freezing cold in those usually in those seasons in Melbourne. So it just gives you a lovely soft light layer that keeps you warm without being too heavy. So the yarn that I knit this up in, as you can see, it's about as neutral as I get. So it's this lovely grey, silver grey base, but it's got flecks of kind of fluoro rainbow all through it. This was La Bien-Aimée Super Sock in Aimee's sweater, the colourway Aimee sweater, and I held it with Isager Silk Mohair, colour 0. And it's just, yeah, it's lovely, and I wear it all the time. It's one of my absolute favourites. Now I knit this as per the pattern. It's a size 5, so I think if I knit it again, I'd probably go down a size because it is quite oversized, and I wouldn't mind probably a closer fit. What I did do though is I think the pattern has a rolled collar, and I didn't do that because I wanted it a little bit more, I could wear it for casual but also wear it to work, so it's just a little bit more casual with that just plain collar. So yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. I also have on, which you can't see, and I'm not gonna stick my foot up on YouTube, but I'm also wearing my Broken Rib DK socks. So that's a pattern by Summerlee Knits, and I actually knit it in fingering weight held with silk mohair. So these are extra luxurious socks. I'll put a little video of me wearing them here. And I got those yarns from Fibersmith, which is a local yarn store to me. So I have some very, very exciting news on the finished object front. So I think the last few episodes you've watched me and my slog through on the half and half triangles wrap, and I'm very excited to let you know that that journey has come to a joyous end. Not a bad end, a good end. So I have finished my half and half triangles wrap it's a pattern by Pearl Soho. So here it is here. Now it's too big for me to show all here, so I'll pop a little video in here somewhere. But essentially it's a square, so it's 2 triangles of different colors knit together to make an absolute gigantic square, and then you can fold it in half and then wear it either as a sort of shawl over your shoulders, really cozy because it's double layer, or you can have it schlanket style, so shawl and blanket around your neck, and just be super cozy. And I think it blocked up really softly. It's really lovely. So I'll tell you about this one now that we've finished it, because I did make a few changes to the pattern. So the yarn I used was Linen Quill by Pearl Soho in the pink pop colorway and the dark denim colorway, and it's this lovely blend, and I've got the tag here. So it's Linen Quill, so it's 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca and 15% linen. So they're the specs there. Someone did ask if I could hold up my yarn ball band, so very happy to do that for you. And this is what I've got left over. So I made the large size, which is a free pattern, so the large size is 260 stitches that you cast on. I used a 3.5mm needle, which I think is one size bigger than what the pattern actually says, because I knit English style, and I wanted to make sure it was going to be really quite big, and I was confident that the fabric wouldn't be too open, and it's not, it's good. So this is what I have left over from 3 skeins of each colour. So I used maybe 2 1/3 skeins of each colour, so I've got a little bit left over. Not sure what I'm going to do with this. If you're desperate for this yarn and in this colourway and not quite full balls, let me know. I'm happy to give it to someone who will love it. But yes, so that's what I had left over. Now I think the pattern has wrap and turns as the short rows, because you cast on all the stitches and then you knit short rows to make each triangle essentially. And the short rows are wrap and turns in the pattern. And when I cast this on, I've since done lots of patterns with wrap and turns, but I wasn't as familiar with wrap and turns as I was with German short rows. So I just converted it. There's lots of videos on YouTube about how to convert the pattern to German short rows. So I use German short rows. And I also slipped the 3 stitches with yarn in front on each end of my work. So as I was working across, when I got to the end, I'd slip the end 3 stitches with yarn held in front. And what that does is it just creates a lovely I-cord edge on the edge, because I didn't want a garter edge on the shawl. So two of the sides have that I-cord edge, which is lovely. And then when I bound off, so when I got to the bind off edge, the bind off I actually used, it's a really great stretchy bind off for shawls. Helen Stewart uses it a lot. You knit one, knit another one, and then those 2 stitches on your right hand needle, you then knit them through the back loop together. Then you knit the next one, knit them through the back loop together. And it just creates, it's really stretchy, but it also creates a lovely edge to the shawl. Similar but not quite as thick as an I-cord. So yeah, so all the edges have lovely finish, and this one is great and I'm very happy. It blocked out beautifully. So before I blocked it, I measured the width, height, whatever, and it was 114 centimeters, which is 45 inches. After blocking, it was 137 centimeters, 54 inches. So it actually grew 9 inches or 23 centimeters, which is huge. So it does block out a lot. You can, block it out quite a bit. I had to block it on our queen size bed because there's not floor space available for that, but it's absolutely beautiful. And most of all, I'm just glad it's off the needle after 17 months. So would I recommend making this pattern? If you love endless garter and you don't get bored, and maybe if you're more of a monogamous knitter and you don't have lots of other exciting projects to work on, maybe this is for you. But I don't think I'll be making another one. I do have another quantity of 2 really great colors of the linen quill that I could use, but I think I'll be redirecting those to other more exciting projects, thinking maybe some garments. So yeah, so that's my half and half triangles wrap. Very exciting, and thank you all for your encouragement and support to get this one done. I hope those of you that said you were also working on trying to finish yours, I hope this motivates you, or I hope you're also on track and going to finish that as well. So my second finished object, to be honest, I was just happy if I finished that. I was surprised and delighted, but I managed to get 2 more finished objects this fortnight, and I think it was more, I don't know, just focus really. So after the half and half triangles wrap, after I finished that, I really wanted that sort of new cast on rush, but I didn't want to cast on something really big. And I did want to use some yarn that I'd picked up from the recent trip to Boongarook. So I like to, when I do pick up a bit of yarn at a yarn show, if I can cast on something from one of the things that I got, it always makes me feel a bit better. So what I did was I pulled out this yarn, which is the lovely Aveley Finnsheep DK. So that's there. So it's in the colour Indigo #1. So they dye, all of their dyeing is natural dye. What that does do, because this is a really dark blue. I mean, it's a bright blue, but it's dark, really saturated. I don't know whether it's because it's not superwash merino, whether it's just because it's naturally dyed or what it is, but it does leave your fingers a little bit blue when you're knitting with it. But when you block it, there's not heaps of dye in the water, it's fine. So yeah, just to give you that warning. So as you can see, I have heaps left, but I did whip up a little pair of mitts for my daughter Molly. So these are the Frosty Path mitts by Julia Pehl, P-E-H-L. Now Julia actually has a podcast on YouTube. It's called the Happy Knitting Podcast, which I've been watching for a while. And she hasn't put out a massive amount of patterns. She's not a, she's just more of an ad hoc indie designer. And so these are just a lovely pair of mittens that she did a pattern for that I was watching her podcast. I thought it was really lovely and I wanted to support her. So it's got this lovely cable on the front, as you can see, which just, I actually knit this with a cable needle. I will often try to knit my cables without because I'm lazy. But these ones, because it was a 3-stitch or 6-stitch cable, so 3 and 3, it was just a little bit too many. I just grabbed a cable needle and it was fine, but it was really quick. So I whipped those up in a weekend, so 2 days. I knit on other things over that weekend, but I knit one mitt on the Saturday and then one mitt on the Sunday, and they were done. Although there is always a tale of, not woe, but a tale of course. Because what I did was, so I knit the adult small for Molly, and it fits her great. I knit the first one on the Saturday and it was fabulous and fast and did it, not a problem. Then I started the other one on the Sunday and I got up and I'd started the thumb gusset, and I'll give you a moment. Can you guess what I did? Yes, so these aren't two-sided, so they're different on the back, or the palm, different on the back, which means that there's actually a separate instructions for left and right, and I started knitting the same hand, so we would have ended up with 2 left hands. So I had to rip that back a little bit. So I ripped it back about 12 rows or so, and adjusted to make the gusset on the other side, but it was fine. It knit up really quickly and Molly loves them. Unfortunately, the weather has warmed up a little bit this week, so she hasn't got a chance to wear them, but hopefully it gets nice and cold as we go into winter and she'll be able to use those. What I was thinking, because they're 200-gram skeins, so I have got a lot left. And Tori Yu is a designer on Ravelry. She just had a sale for her birthday, I think. And so I grabbed up a hat pattern that I've been eyeing off because I've been influenced by all the other podcasters making it. It's called the Manhattan hat, and I'm thinking that I will whip up one of those for Molly so she has a bit of a matching set to go with her school uniform. So that's the plan for this one. Maybe I'll cast that on this week. So that's the Frosty Path mittens. Now the third finished object was actually a bit of a surprise, and knit up really, or not knit up, it actually crocheted up very quickly. So I kind of surprised myself by finishing it, and this is the virus shawl. Sorry, I've got dogs barking, just ignore them. So this is the virus shawl, which I showed you last episode, and I finished it. It's so quick to crochet up, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I will definitely be making another one of these. So this shawl is, as I explained last time, there's not really a pattern available. There's lots of different patterns available, but it's a bit of a standard one that lots of crocheters seem to know and seem to just knit up, and it's just one of those things in the crochet world, I think. So of course I wanted to be a part of that hype and wanted to be able to say, yes, I've crocheted one up too. So what I did was I used, there's a video tutorial by Bella Coco, which I'll link below. I use that. It's a great tutorial, really, really good. And I also, as I mentioned last time, my friend Sylvia is a magnificent crocheter. She does lots of test crochets and makes so many things. So she's part of my knit group that I go to. So she helped me out and showed me in person, gave me tips on how to do it. So thank you, Sylvia, as well. So I crocheted it up in this yarn, so Noro, and it's the Silk Garden Sock yarn in the colour S493. And this yarn has 40% wool, 25% silk, 25% polyamide and 10% mohair. So it has quite a texture to it. It's not rough or super itchy, but it's not soft like merino. But it did block really nicely, and it's very drapey. So I used a 3.5mm E hook. I use the clover hooks, they're my favorite. And I used 2 full skeins of the Noro, and I actually played a very intense game of yarn chicken to finish this off. It was very stressful. My mum was here when I was doing it, and we all breathed a sigh of relief. I think I had that much yarn left after the very last stitch. I'll pop a photo because I couldn't quite believe it. I've never run that close, but I love that I was able to use up 2 entire skeins, and it's just an absolutely great size. So this pre-blocking, the width of this pre-blocking was 140 centimeters or 55 inches, and post-blocking was 170 centimeters, 67 inches. So it grew 30 centimeters, which is huge, and I'm glad it did, because I was a bit concerned that the 2 balls, it just wasn't quite big enough, that it just wouldn't sort of fit and it might fall off. But actually it's perfect, and it looks great, and it works really well. And I'm really happy with the sort of color changes and the pinks and the greens together. Just one of my favorite combinations. So very happy with this one. So I will definitely be making more of these here. I'll definitely be making more of these in the future. Now I'm eating the fluff. Yeah, it was really fun, and I really highly recommend, if you, like me, have sort of, you know, your focus has been on granny squares or granny stripes, you know, very sort of simple crochet, and you want to extend a little bit, this is a really easy but effective pattern. So yeah, so that's my virus shawl. So 3 finished objects, very happy with that. And then we'll talk about all the works in progress. So I did work on a lot of different things, and I did work on a couple of things which I'm not going to show because I don't think I've made very interesting progress. So the glittering snowscapes shawl, I have done a few more sections on the border. Now that I've finished off those 2 shawls, in the next fortnight, that's going to be my focus. I really want to get that border done and have that shawl finished. So hopefully I'll show it to you next time, hopefully as a finished object, but we won't set ourselves up for failure, will we? And so I worked on that, and I also, I think last episode I showed you my mum's jumper that she asked me to finish knitting, which was the Espace Tricot jumper, and I'm blanking on the name. Turtle Dove, yes. So I did go ahead and knit the ribbing on the hem and bound that off, so the body is finished, but I haven't yet picked up either sleeve. So I will hopefully pick up a sleeve and start that this fortnight, and I'll show you when I make a bit more progress on that, because I didn't think hemming was very exciting. So having said that, my first work in progress that I am going to show you is in my friend's bag that I made myself. The pattern for this project bag is, I've got it listed down below so you can go and find it. It's on Etsy. So this is really doesn't fit in this bag anymore. This is my Weekender by Andrea Mowry. Now I have made good progress. I'm not going to finish it in time for the end of the DIK March to May knit along, But that's okay, because that knit along, even though I'm not formally participating, is the thing that got me motivated to pick this up and finish it, or get it finished. So I think last time I showed you, I'd finished the body and I'd sewn up the shoulders. So that's all done still. And where I was last time, I've popped in a little star stitch marker. So I just picked up the sleeve, and I think I'd done 2 rows of that first sleeve. So I finished knitting that sleeve this last fortnight. And so you can see all my, I put little light bulb stitch markers in the rows where I do a decrease. I mean, it looks pretty, but it also sometimes in fuzzy yarn or dark yarn, it can be hard to kind of see where those decreases are and to make sure that you don't miss them. And then when I make the second sleeve, what I do is I take the stitch marker off from this sleeve and pop it on, and so I know how many I have left by how many are still on this sleeve. So I did pick up for the other sleeve, but I think I only knit 4 rows there. So I'm hoping, I managed to get that one sleeve done. I'm hoping that I'll be able to bust out that second sleeve, and next fortnight I'll be able to show you a finished weekender jumper, which is very exciting because this has been on the needles for a while, since June last year. So I knit the sleeve, so just to give you a heads up, I knit the sleeve as per pattern. My gauge is pretty spot on, but I think my row gauge is a little bit bigger, because I was knitting away. I've knit Andrea Mowry's sweaters before, and her sleeves always fit me really well as per pattern. So I had to do a certain number of decreases for my size, and I got to, I think, the second last decrease, and I thought, I measured it, and it was measuring what this finished sleeve should be without the cuff, and I still had another decrease to go. So I popped it. Luckily, it's very easy to try it on. So I popped it on and measured, and it was where it needed to be for starting the cuff immediately. So I didn't do that final decrease as per the pattern, but what I did do in the first row, I just immediately started the cuff. In the first row of ribbing, I just decreased 2 stitches. So the cuff is the stitch count in the pattern. And then I did the tubular bind off. So you do the 2 setup rows, and then you do, it says to put, the pattern actually says to, slip the full round of stitches onto 2 needles, which I think is how some people do tubular bind off. But once you've done the setup rows, you can do Kitchener stitch, which is what you need to do once it's on the 2 needles. You can actually do that flat on 1 needle. It's just the Italian sewn bind off, and I love Italian sewn bind off, so I didn't bother with all that guff of putting it on 2 needles. I just did the Italian sewn bind off after that. So that has a lovely finish. That's all done. So very excited to get this one done. So what else can I tell you about it? So I cast this on, in June last year. And I think as I said, I cast it on, and I was probably a bit curvier at the time, and so it's going to be super, super oversized. So I think it's a size 5, and if I was to knit this again now, I'd probably go down a size, but it's going to be really cozy and really lovely in winter, so I think it'll be good. So so that's my weekender. Very exciting to get that progressing. So the next one is my Bubbles and Brioche. So this is in my Patil Knits doggo bag, which is quilted, if I haven't said that before. It's absolutely lovely. And I saw that Patil Knits is actually one of the sponsors for Knitty Natty's Sock Week. So she's absolutely made it if she's one of those sponsors. So really well done to you, Saeed. So this is the Bubbles and Brioche Shawl by Stephen West, and I'm knitting this one up in my Hodgepodge Skeins Advent from 2023. It was a marine themed Advent. And I did have a question in the comments last week about what is an Advent. So just quickly, I'm sure a lot of you know, but a yarn Advent is essentially a bit of a countdown where you get, if it's a Christmas Advent, sometimes there's Advents in July or for Easter, but they're a countdown where each day you open usually a mini skein, so a 10 gram or 20 gram mini skein each day leading up to, in this case, Christmas. And so from the 1st of December to the 24th of December, you open up a mini skein each day. So you actually end up with 24 mini skeins. And often in some Advents, there is also a main skein that you open up on Christmas Day. And there's lots and lots of patterns specifically made for yarn Advents, but there's also lots of patterns like this where you can adapt them for using up your Advents. And this is a great one for that because of the way the pattern's designed. So this is a shawl that has brioche, which is this bit here, and it also has the bubble stitch, which is why it's called Bubbles and Brioche, and it also has some 2-color garter just to recover from all the all the patterning. And this one, as if you've watched the last few episodes, I won't go through it all again, but it's been full of drama, lots of ripping back and working out how to fix a missed increase row right back here at the start. So we're over that now, and I think from last time, where's my little stitch marker? There it is. So that's where I was when I showed you last time, where I had remedied the stitch count, ripped back, remedied the stitch count, and then I have now finished the second bubble section for the second time. So I'm pleased to be back here. Aren't you pleased for me too? So the next thing I need to do from here, so this is the first 8 days of the Advent, and then the next 8 days are in this section. The final 8 minis, so the final 8 days, will be in the final bubble section. But first, in this part, now I have to move into another brioche section, which is here. And this section is using the dark blue, which is the main skein from the Advent, and also a white yarn. So here's this is the main skein. It's a lovely, really dark teal blue from Hodgepodge Skeins. And then this yarn, do I have the tag? Yes, I do. This is Regia Premium Silk 4-ply, and it's in the color 2. So it's a lovely, it's not stark white, it looks quite bright, but it's sort of a creamy white, I think. And I think it goes really well with all the really bright colors in the Advent. So that's the other main color that I'm holding. And it's just making it lovely and drapey. So I think as I've said before, this pattern is on 3.5 millimeter needles, but I'm knitting it on 3.75. I just find I get a nice drape and a better gauge and a better size with Stephen West patterns because I'm slightly tighter than he is. So I cast this on the 3rd of April, and I'm hoping for next time that I'll have that brioche section done. What I am going to do though, and I'll just let you know how I'll do that. So I'm going to put a lifeline in now before I start the brioche, so that if I do make a horrendous mistake in the brioche, and I'm very much still a novice at brioche, so I don't think dropping down and attempting to fix it would have very good results. So I want to put in a lifeline just to give me some comfort. So the next row is in that dark blue, but what that row is, it's not a brioche row yet. It actually creates that last row of bubbles by you do kind of knit belows. So I'm going to do that row, but I'm going to hold, so through, I don't know where it is, through the you'll see in these needles, see there's a hole there. That hole is used for a couple of things. So it's, you put a key through it so you can tighten your needles. It's an interchangeable needle set by Chiaogu. So you can use that hole to tighten your needle tips, but you can also use it for lifelines. So I've got embroidery thread. So I find that really, it's nice and thin, it's slippery. I pop embroidery thread through my working needle for the row, and then I just knit, and it drags the embroidery thread through that entire row as I knit. So I don't need to weave it in with a needle or anything. I can just knit the lifeline in, and then it's sitting there, and if I do need to rip back, I know that I have a place where I can pull everything back to, and then I can just pop my needle through where that lifeline is. So that's what I'll be doing next, and hopefully I'll have a beautiful bearish section next time. And very excited because I think in the last couple of weeks I picked up Hodgepodge Skeins Advent for this year. So her theme this year is gemstones, which proves to be which I'm sure will prove to be very colourful jewel tones and things, which are my absolute favourite. So I could not resist. So I'm very keen to have this finished and then to look forward to her Advent for this year. So that's that one. And okay, the third work in progress is in my Crystal Cat stitchery bag, which I just love the little fluoro pink and neutral. Neons and neutrals, great. So these are the Hearten Mitts by Helen Stewart. I did make a bit of progress, so I wanted to show these, but obviously compared to these DK mittens, which were very, very quick to knit up, these are not so quick. These are much more a labour of love. So this is using the scraps, which I have held in this excellent Kmart container. This is the Louie and Lola Cozy Country Advent from 2022. These are my scraps. As you can see, I made a Radvent cardigan, but I have massive amounts of scraps for this. So using those scraps, I am knitting up the Hearten Mitts by Helen Stewart. So that's where I was last time, my little sheep stitch marker there. And so I've knit 3 more colours, and it really doesn't look like much, but it's pretty slow going because you have to change colours every 4 rows if you want the full Advent in the mitts, which I do, and I want them to match. So there is going to be like 50 ends per mitt, and I'm knitting them in a little bit, but I don't want to knit across the lovely lace pattern, which I'll show you. So I'm gonna have to do some weaving in at the end. But where I did get up to, you'll see, so it looks really nice, and they're gonna be beautiful when they're finished. But as you can see, I'm now knitting flat. So you knit, this is the top, sort of top down mitt, I guess. And they don't have a thumb, they just have a thumb hole. So they're more of a maybe hand warmer, wrist warmer. But so it means that you have to knit flat for this bit, and then you go back to in the round, I assume. I haven't looked forward in the pattern, but I presume you go back to knitting in the round for the wrist. So that's where I'm up to at the moment. Hoping to make a bit more progress, but I'm also not worried if this one is a bit of a longer term. It's fun just to put a couple of stripes in every now and then, and the colours are just really, really enjoyable, and the pattern's lovely as well. And of course it's very easy to follow Helen Stewart patterns because they just have the nice little chart with the tick boxes for each row, which I know you either love it or hate it, but I love them, so that's really good. So they're my Hearten Mitts. The other thing I was going to say, there's lots of twisted stitches in this one, and because you have to then not convert, but you have to start knitting flat for a while, it means that your twisted stitches are being made by purling through the back loop, which I'm here for. I don't mind. I'm all good with purling through the back loop, but I know that for some people is like warning. So just so you know, there's purling through the back loop in these mitts. It doesn't really slow you down, but it's in there. So I cast these on the 13th of May. So yeah, I think they're going to probably take a few months because they're not my main focus, but they're nice to just pick up and do a little bit every now and then. Also the gauge on them is, so it's a 3.5mm needle, and it's on the lighter side of fingering weight, that wool from Louie and Lola. It's lovely. It's got the yak in it, so it's really soft, but it is a bit thinner. It does block out a bit, but at the moment the gauge does feel a bit loose. So I think if I knitted them again, I might go down a needle size and up a mitt size, but I probably won't knit them again because there are going to be a million ends. And I actually did think the other day, I wonder if there's someone you can pay to send your projects off to and they'll weave in all your ends for you. Just saying, putting it out there, great business opportunity for someone. Not me, because I don't want to do that, but yeah. Anyway, I think there'd be a market for that. So, work in progress number 4 is my jelly roll blanket. So this is a blanket pattern by K.F. Jones, who has a YouTube podcast, The Bakery Bears. And I am knitting, it's actually a fingering weight blanket pattern, but I'm knitting it in DK like a lot of people at the moment. Was totally influenced by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady and lots of other people, Justine, Never Not Knitting, and there's lots of people doing this at the moment, and I can completely understand why, because it's just so quick to knit it in DK. So in 8-ply, so this is what it's looking like. So I think last time, so I cast this on April 5th, so it hasn't been that long. I'm using 3.75mm needles, and it's just I'm using DK or 8-ply scraps. So I'm not yet using 2 strands of fingering weight held together, but I know I can also do that to get about the same gauge. But at the moment I have lots of DK scraps, and I have a couple of advents with scraps where they were DK advents. So yeah, so I think last time I showed you I had knitted most of this strip. I'd actually knitted this first strip up to the blue, and then I had started on the second strip, and I think I was up to there where my little acorn skull is from Mavis Castlemane, Mavis Handmade. So yeah, lovely. So what I did was I finished off that second strip, and you'll see that I've got lots of speckled and tonal, but I've also got self-striping scraps in here. I don't mind, I love it. I think I'm going to put a little block of self-striping in each strip at a different spot just to kind of give it some balance, but I really like that they're in here. So this is the scraps from my Canberra socks, so that's a lovely reminder for me of my first paid pattern. But yes, I finished off the second row, and what I also did was I lengthened that first strip. So I knit from here, I put in some self-striping, and I actually finished this row off. So when I stand on the floor and I hold the blanket up and let it touch the floor, it actually goes up to, it's as tall as me essentially, and you just make enough strips that it's as wide as you want it to be. So it's going to be pretty big, I hope. And I finished off that second strip, and then I started the third strip, because I think if I didn't start it in that sitting, it would have been something where it's like, oh, I have to cast on a new strip, and you know, it's just, but whereas if you cast it on and start it, then it's easier to just pick up. So I've got the third strip just started there with some really cool DK self-striping that I made a pair of socks in. This is from Heather Made, which is a really good Aussie dyer. She has really great self-striping fingering and DK weight, and she winds them up into these gobstoppers, which are really cute, so you can see all the stripes. She also does lots of other, not just self-striping, but, you know, tonals and variegated, all of that. But her self-striping sock yarn is really cool as well. So I've got that left over, and that's what I'm working on at the moment. So that's the third strip. So that's just a really fun scrappy project. It's one of my favorite scrappy projects because there's so much progress so quickly. So I highly recommend, if you've got scraps laying about, if they're fingering weight, you can hold them double. Otherwise, that's that. Now for the join, the pattern says to join in a particular way. I quite liked the modification made by Kay Litton, the Crazy Sock Lady, because she's knitting this blanket as well, and she modified this join so that you can kind of see both colors and it's really clean, which I really like as a bit of a feature. So I've done the same thing. She had her instructions for this on her project page. I've cut and pasted them onto my project page as well. So if you want to see how to do that and copy it, you can just click down below on my project page and you'll see the instructions for how to make that join. That's all there for you. So that's that one. So that's good. And then the last whip I want to show you today is actually one that you haven't seen. So there are still a couple of sneaky whips that I haven't worked on, so I haven't showed you yet, but they are sitting there and you will see them in future episodes. So there's still excitement to look forward to. It's not all the same. So this project is using another Advent. So this is my bag of minis from the Advent. You may or may not recognize, if you got the same Advent, you may recognize the bags. So this is my Rainbows and Sprinkles Advent from 2023, and it was the Candyland themed Advent, which was lots of bright colors, and it was based, all of the minis were based on pictures of lollies, or if you're in America, candy. And then the yarn was dyed up to sort of represent those colors. So what I'm knitting, and it's in my, because it's an Advent project, it's in a Christmas bag that I made. So it's, of course, Star Wars Christmas fabric, because how excellent is that? One of my favorite Christmas bags. So this is the Trifle wrap by Helen Stewart. I love Helen Stewart's knit vent patterns. I've knit her anthology throw and the habitation throw, and when the Trifle wrap came out last year, I grabbed it immediately because I thought, well, I want to knit that up in one of my Advents. Now, this has not been as quick a project as the anthology throw or the habitation throw, because there's a lot more patterning, there's patterning, whereas in those other patterns it was mostly just plain knitting. But this is it. So it doesn't look like much, but I have actually, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've done 8 colors, 8 days worth. And this is, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm actually holding, it's fingering weight, but I'm holding it with bare silk mohair. So it's undyed, and it's lace weight silk mohair. So together it makes quite a fluffy, squishy, lovely wrap. Now the pattern, I think, says to do this, or it says you can just hold fingering weight single. I wanted, because I've got a lot of sort of fingering weight shawls, I really wanted to try the mohair, and it's beautiful, but it also does slow things down a little bit. So it has this, as you can see, really cool chevron pattern that you just have to be a little bit more careful with, because it's on every row you have to do something. There's no row where it's just knit across. And so it's very easy, if you're watching TV or chatting to someone, it's very easy to miss miss a slip stitch or miss a yarn over, and then you have to kind of drop down in Mohair and work out what you're doing anyway. So it's not as mindless as one might like, but I'm hoping once I finish the glittering Snowscapes shawl that I can make this one a bit of a focus and make some really good progress on it, because it's absolutely beautiful. And I did see someone else on Instagram, I forget who it was, but someone actually posted that they had finished the trifle wrap and they used this exact advent and it looks spectacular. So I'm very motivated now to twin with that person and finish off my trifle wrap in these absolutely gorgeous colors. So why don't I move one of these, the little stitch markers. That's the other thing about advents too, is you often get little special presents with your yarn, and this little lollipop came with the Candyland Advent. And I also, let me just pop this on so we know where I was last time. I also got these stitch stoppers, which, as you know, needle stoppers. As you know, I'm a big advocate for needle stoppers because projects coming off your needles just doesn't make sense to me. But aren't they just so cute? Anyway, so that's a really fun one that I'd love to make some progress on. So I'm showing you so that, much like the half and half triangles wrap, I can be accountable in the next episode. If I don't show it, you can make a comment and say, come on, Kath, where's your wrap? So that's that one. So that was the final work in progress that I wanted to show you today. What are you working on at the moment? Have you finished off a half and half triangles wrap? Have you got any advent patterns or projects that you're still working through? What's lingering, or what have you finished? If you leave me a comment, because I absolutely love hearing from you and hearing about the sorts of projects that you're working on. I often go off to Ravelry and pop them in my queue so that I can see them. So something I did want to show you, so when you watch this, it will probably be June, the start of June. So June, as you may or may not know, June is Pride Month, and that's one of the sort of things that I very much support and advocate for. I have many friends who celebrate in Pride Month, and so I always have a cast on for Pride Month that just sort of reflects the month and just is my way of showing a bit of yarny support for you know, the celebration in that month. So I wanted to show you what I made last year, and then I wanted to show you what I'm going to cast on this year. So last year I made the, it's just so pretty. I made the Sea Dragon shawl by Amber O'Brien, and this shawl was so much fun. I think it's one of her lesser known patterns, although she did recently review and revamp it, and I think it has new sizes and you can do it in DK as well as fingering. This one is in fingering weight, and it is an absolute delight to knit, and it is a complete lesson in short rows. They're not hard short rows because you don't have to resolve them because it's cut garter stitch. So it's wrap and turns, this is where I became familiar with wrap and turns, but you don't have to resolve the wraps. They just blend into the garter, which is absolutely amazing. But it really does show you, as you knit these, it shows you how short rows can be used to create shapes. And it was just so much fun because each one of these little sections is like a mini project. You get to sort of cast it on in that color, and then you finish it off and you get that great sense of finishing something. And I knitted up in Hue Loco Phyllis sock. Now Hue Loco had a mini set. I don't know if it was for Pride Month, but it was called Prism. And the colors, when I saw the colors, now Hue Loco is overseas, so I don't often buy things from overseas because the shipping to Australia is just so prohibitive, but sometimes I can't go past it. And this mini set, the variegated nature of the yarn and the colors, it was just absolutely perfect. So I grabbed that mini set and I knit it with this color here, which is this, it's a beautiful sort of light black color. It's a fingering weight yarn from Prosper yarn, so it's Prosper Sock, and it's in the rubber sole colorway. Now this was actually leftovers. You don't need very much of this. I had used this in one of my mystery knit-alongs, the Stephen West Twists and Turns. I did a Targaryen themed shawl that was black, red and white. So it was very sort of House of Dragon. But I had heaps of the black left over. So I popped it in this one and I'm just very, very happy with this result. I wear this one all the time because it's not really thick and heavy. It's quite light. It wears really well. It does not come off because it sort of naturally curves around. The colors are just amazing. So yeah, this was my Pride shawl finished object from last year. And I highly recommend this pattern. Definitely knit it. Go and have a look at it if you haven't already. So this year, instead of a shawl, because I've got quite a lot of things on the needles, I thought I'd knit up a pair of socks because there's lots of sock knit-alongs going on at the moment. And I can use, you know, one of my existing patterns, probably the Melbourne socks, or I can play around with a different, maybe a new pattern, but we'll have a think about that. But I got this yarn last year because I saw it in Pride Month and I ordered it. It came from the UK, so it took a little bit of time to get here, so I thought I'd save it for this year. So this is FibrePunk. The colorway is Progress Pride and it's 75-25, so it's 400 meters. But yeah, the colorway is Progress Pride and it's just going to knit up in beautiful pride colors. And yeah, it's really lovely. So yeah, that's going to be my Pride Month cast on. So that's there. And I think that was it. I think oh, so the other thing I'd mention is this weekend. So if you're watching this on the weekend of the 1st and 2nd of June, this weekend there is a wool show in Victoria. I know there's actually a few wool shows going on in Australia, but in Victoria there's one being held in Coburg on both Saturday the 1st and Sunday the 2nd. It's a yarn and craft market and it's in Coburg at the Merribeck Town Hall. So I'll probably be popping into that one to show a bit of support to the makers and vendors. And there's lots of vendors there, including half-baked hand-dyed Danny, who dyed the self-strapping yarn that I knit up one of my samples for the Canberra socks. And she's actually going to be selling kits with her yarn together with my Canberra socks pattern. So I think that's both online and also at the market. So if you go and check out half-baked hand-dyed, you'll be able to grab some of her great sock yarn, and if you haven't got the pattern already, you'll be able to get it in a kit. So that's very exciting. And the other thing I was thinking about was whether anyone wanted to do any kind of knit-alongs. So I'm always up for participating in a knit-along, and very happy to run one if you'd like to do any knit-alongs. So I was thinking of maybe a sock knit-along with the various sock patterns that are going on at the moment, or maybe you have lingering Advent whips that you'd like to make your way through, that you'd like to knit with me along with that. So let me know if there's any kind of knit-along that you'd like to do as a bit of a group. We can have a group on, or a thread on, in the Ravelry group, so we can all chat and share what we're working on. That would be a lot of fun, so let me know. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming along again. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. I hope you're all enjoying what you're making and you get lots of time to craft and fill up your crafty bucket, so to speak. And I hope you all have a lovely weekend or whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Bye.